Hi everyone, it's Claire here. I just thought I would go through a few processes today to show you how I'm using both my Thermomix TM6 and the Thermomix Friend. So I'm putting together a video. I'm just going to make our family dinner tonight, and it's going to be a cottage pie with mashed potato. Quite a lot of customers often ask how to actually do the mashed potato, so I just thought I'd put together a quick video and I'll show you how I do it. So I'm not following a cookie dough recipe. I'm just going to do my own thing and freestyle this one. So I've got both my TM6 and my Thermomix Friend here ready to use. So I'm going to start off just doing a couple of things for the cottage pie. First thing I'm going to do, we like a little bit of cheese on the top of ours. So I'm just going to grate my cheese ready for when it comes to go in the oven. So I get a nice cheesy crust on it. So I'm putting some blocks of cheese in. Thermomix, lid back on. And I'm just going to set this up for maybe about 10 seconds and about a speed 6. In fact, I think that's enough. That was only 5 seconds. So it's grated my cheese. So when it releases the lid, I'll just show you that. So that's nice and chopped. Put that back into my bowl. So I'll save that for later. So it just helps to do things sometimes in a slightly backwards order, because that's the last thing we're going to do with the cottage pie. But actually by putting the cheese in and grating it now, it's there ready to use and I don't have to clean the bowl out. So the next thing I'm going to do is get my potatoes on. So I'm just going to fill my bowl out. I wash my rinse my bowl out. And I'll fill it up with about 800 grams of water. Should be enough. So when we're doing mashed potato, the method that I use is that I always steam them. And so I've got them in the steaming basket. I've chopped them up into even diced potatoes, so even chunks, so they're all around the same size. I've just used a red potato here, so you could use Maris Pipers, you could use white potatoes. So different potatoes will give a slightly different result. There are various methods on the cookie dough for doing the mashed potato, but this is the one I prefer, to steam the potatoes first and then mash them afterwards. So you'll see the results of this. You can also, one of the mashed potato recipes is put the potatoes directly into the bowl with some butter and some milk to cook them in, and then once they're cooked, actually just mash them then. I find that makes them a little bit gluey sometimes, so steaming is my preferred way. If you've got more potatoes than this, you can also steam them in the Veroma as well. So up to you, depends how you want to do them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to place my bowl with the water in onto the Thermomix Friend. Okay, because the Thermomix Friend, if you didn't know, you haven't heard about it yet, we're launching it later on this year, but it's available at the moment if you buy it with the TM6. What it allows you to do is cook something slowly or steam something while you're using your Thermomix for the main part of your meal, for example. So for here, it's perfect. I can steam my potatoes, I can steam some vegetables as well if I wanted to, and then I can carry on and cook my cottage pie on my TM6. So the Thermomix Friend will, we can set the temperature up to Veroma. We can only set the speed of the blade up to speed 2. So we can't use it for chopping or anything like that, but we can set it up to speed 2 and it's always in reverse. So it's great for steaming because we don't need to have high speed. Also, it's the speed of the blade goes round, but actually the power of the blade isn't quite as strong as it is when it's actually on the Thermomix. So if you find that you're doing something that's got big chunks of meat in them, they might often get caught underneath the blade. So ideally, something that's been cooked, started to be cooked already, will go on here and will work at speed 1 or 2 in reverse, or a liquid, or water, as we're doing here for the Veroma temperature. I'm going to put the lid on. Okay, and I'm going to set it up on the dial. So we've got a dial here. I'm going to set it up for, let's say, about 25 minutes, I think, so the water gets up to temperature. I'm going to set the temperature up to Veroma. There's a little message that just reminds you to put the lid back on, and then I'm going to set the speed to speed 2, and that's going to start heating the water and it's going to steam those potatoes. So that's actually all set, ready to go, and they're just cooking away. So now I can come to my Thermomix and I could do the rest of the meal. So for this one, I'm going to do a cottage pie. I've just got some onions and some carrots. So I'm going to chuck those in. I'm going to chop those just for a few seconds, speed 5. Okay, stop the blades and then pour in some olive oil. Again, you could weigh this in about 20 grams of olive oil or just use by eye, however much you fancy putting in. Put back on again. So I'm going to saute these now for 5 minutes, 100 degrees, and I'll just put them at speed 1. Okay, so that's going to saute away. I've got my Thermomix Friend here that's doing my potatoes. Once this is done, I'm going to add in my meat and I'm going to cook the meat as well, and then I'll come back to you and I will transfer things over and I'll be able to mash the potato in the TM6 and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, I'll come back to you later. So, I'm back now. I've used this time while it's all been cooking just to take the dog for a quick walk. So that's one of the things I love about the Thermomix, is that there's no issues with anything burning or boiling over. Everything's just finishing off cooking. So just as a reminder, I've got my mince in the TM6 and I'm steaming my potatoes. Ouch, that's a bit hot. Steaming my potatoes in the Thermomix Friend. Okay, so that's my mince has just finished. My Thermomix Friend is just about to beep as well. So I'll just stop that. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just check that my potatoes are actually cooked. Under knife. Yep, they're nice and soft, so they are cooked. And I'm going to take the steaming basket out. Also using the spatula so I don't burn myself. I'll just place that down there and I'll tip out the water that's in here. Okay. So the next thing to do for mashing the potatoes, and this is how I do mine, is I'm going to put the whisk in to the Thermomix bowl, make sure that's on the blaze properly, and then I'm going to take my potatoes and I'm going to tip them in. There we go, and they're in. Put that away. So I'm now going to add in some salt, because I didn't have any salt when I was cooking them. And that's salt on my potatoes. And I've got some butter. And again, I don't measure it out, I just take a few chunks and probably about 25 grams, 30 grams in there. And I'm going to add in a little bit of milk. I'm always a little bit sparing with the milk because depending on how much how much water the potatoes hold. So sometimes you might find in a recipe it'll say something like 120 grams of milk. I think there's one recipe that says that. For me, that's too much, it'll make the potatoes a bit sloppy. So I'm just going to put a little bit of milk in, and then I can see when I mash them if I need to put any more, if the mixture looks a little bit dry. So now I can't mash them in the Thermomix Friend. So the Thermomix Friend will only go up to speed 2, and the blade just isn't powerful enough to do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my mince off, and again I'm multitasking here. This is great if you're doing any food prep because you can have both machines on the go. So I'm just going to leave my mince, I'm going to put that on again for say another 10 minutes, 100 degrees. A little reminder to make sure you've got the lid on. And with the Thermomix Friend, it's always in reverse. So I'm just going to put it on speed 1 in reverse. So that's just going to cook away now. So now on the TM6, I'm going to mash my potatoes. Now when you're using the whisk, and you've got the whisk attachment on there, you mustn't go above speed 4. If you go above speed 4, it's liable to fly off the blades, and it'll just get chopped up by the blades as you're cooking something. Then you'll have to just dump everything and start again and buy a new whisk. So I'm just going to leave that on there. I'm going to set it to, just put it for 30 seconds. But I'm not going to do that, I'm going to do 20 seconds. Don't need a temperature, and I'm going to dial it up to speed 3.5. Okay, and that's going to whisk. I always have a little check by taking the lid off that yeah, the whisk hasn't flown off, just to make sure it has actually stayed onto the blades. It's never happened that it's flown off, but you never know. So it's on speed 3.5 just for 20 seconds, and then when that's done, I can have a check, see how mashed it is. If I want to mash it any more, add any more liquid in, I can do so. So I'll just turn that off. I'll show you. So I've got my mashed potato. In fact, consistency of that looks absolutely perfect. Can't see any lumps in there. So I think I'm just going to leave it at that. So just 20 seconds to mash that, which is brilliant. I'm going to take my whisk out. Just get any potato off there. Okay. Now if I needed to do any more cooking, I could carry on with the next thing, but actually I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm going to take my mince off the Thermomix Friend, because that's been on for half an hour now. It's going to go in the oven because I want it to be nicely browned on, or the cheese to be melted on the top. So just stop that. I've got my dish here. Don't need to wait for it to release the lid because there was nothing holding the lid on. Okay, just give that a bit of a stir. That looks great. Okay, I'm just going to put that into my dish. Quite a lot in here, I need a bigger dish, but that'll do. Spread it out. And then I'm going to take my mashed potato. I'm going to spread that onto the top. Little clumps. There we go. I didn't measure out the potatoes, it's just what I had in the cupboard. So you could obviously add more in if you wanted to, but it almost filled up the steaming basket, so that was fine. And I'll just, I've probably got a little bit too much mince in here, but I'll just take a spoonful of that out. I'll save that for another one and make another small one. Okay. Okay, so that's nicely done. I'll probably put that on a baking tray in the oven. Okay, and then I've got my cheese, which I'm going to grate, which I already grated, and I'm going to sprinkle that on the top. We like grated cheese on ours, on our mashed potato. And then I'll put that in the oven to brown for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes, it depends when we're going to eat, and I'll show you a picture of it at the end. And I hope that's been useful, and you enjoy making your mashed potato and cottage pie. Speak to you all soon.